The Stone Zone with legendary Republican strategist and political icon and pundit Roger Stone. Stone has served as a senior campaign aide to 3 Republican presidents. He is a New York Times best-selling author and a longtime friend and advisor of President Donald Trump. As an outspoken libertarian, Stone has appeared on thousands of broadcasts, spoken at countless venues, and lectured before the prestigious Oxford Political Union and the Cambridge Union Society. Due to his 4+ decades in the political and cultural arena, Stone has become a pop culture icon. And now, here's your host, Roger Stone.
Welcome, I'm Roger Stone, and yes, you are back in the Stone Zone. Well, today brings the shocking news that New York City Democrat Mayor Eric Adams and a number of his inner circle have been indicted by the Federal Department of Justice. Here to help us break this sequence of events down that brought us to this moment, first my co-host, the editor-in-chief of Slingshot.News, Troy Smith.
Roger, it's always an honor to join you in the Stone Zone.
Joining us now, a former New York City police officer, Salvatore Greco. He is a 14 or perhaps 15-year veteran of the New York City Police Department, having served the people of New York in some of the most dangerous graveyard shift neighborhoods in the city. He was terminated by the NYPD for on an entirely baseless basis, really a political hit job. He is fighting that in court quite successfully. He and his attorneys have defeated 2 motions to dismiss by the city of New York, and he knows more about this issue and the level of crime that brought us to this moment. Sal Greco joins us now in the Stone Zone.
Roger and Troy, it's an honor to be here.
Well, Sal, I got to give you credit. You have for well over 2 years, almost 3 years now, predicted this day would come because you are a law enforcement officer and have great detective skills. Most of the corruption issues surrounding the indictment of not just Adams, but Adams' entire inner circle and some of his top political aides are due to dogged reporting on your part and a indefatigable effort to get the truth to the people of New York and the country. It's a long and winding story, but it begins in a restaurant in the Bronx called Casa Frito. Why don't we start the narrative there?
Yeah, so Roger, what you're mentioning here is kind of like the hub, we'll say, for the Eric Adams administration and the upper echelon New York City Police Department, along with numerous politicians, including the State Attorney General Letitia James and the head of the Assembly, the Speaker, Carl Hastie. It was a restaurant in the Bronx in the industrial section called Casa Frito. It is owned by the police commissioner's brother, Richard Caban, and the creator and manager of the place is a guy by the name of Jimmy Rodriguez, a self-admitted criminal and mob associate who used to own Jimmy's Bronx Cafe, a place that was infamous, so infamous that Major League Baseball banned its players. It's the site of where Fidel Castro came when he did come to New York City that one time. And also Jimmy is associated to numerous politicians such as Bill Clinton. Hillary Clinton, when she announced her run for Senate, did it in front of his laundromat. It's now long forgotten, but that laundromat did have a sticker that said, Jimmy Bronx Cafe is going out of business. Come here to get the bills that he owes. So this is a little known fact. So it's a place where a lot of politicos and police officers and so on go there, especially now convicted criminals. There's a lot of felons that go to this place. We nicknamed the Hall of Felons, which you could see on the walls and who walks in. Fat Joe, Peter Guns, all these guys walk in. So famous rappers. So this place, though, was under a mire of controversy from the beginning, going all the way back to 2021. The original owner, the owner of the place was an Albanian guy that owned it. It was called Acri Cafe. Once again, Jimmy Rodriguez was in the background. And then as the place became from Acri Cafe to Casa Frito, they then shifted everything over to Richard Caban to be the owner. As this transition is happening, the Albanian guy seems to slowly weed out. And this Albanian guy, though, what happens is as he's giving away the place, he's still on the SLA license. That's the liquor license. Yet Caban owned the place, which was already one red flag. So then when Richard Caban takes over later on on August of 2021, there's an incident that occurred. And we see that I legally obtained this document. It was the NYPD sent a criminal referral to the State Liquor Authority, and it comes from the Vice Human Trafficking Unit. A human trafficking unit from the NYPD wrote this letter to the SLA in regards to this incident that occurred, and then the trail runs cold. The SLA starts an investigation. They all of a sudden shut it down in December. We don't know why. It never states why, just withdrew it, and the party goes on. Next thing you know, in 2022, the Department of Buildings, which at the time was headed by Eric Ulrich, remember him, he was indicted long ago. So Eric Ulrich, as the head of the buildings, they went over there and they summons Consa Frito and said, you have an illegal party shed. There's this 50 by 100 foot shed that's on the corner of the restaurant, and they use it for a party room. And it was deemed illegal. It was a public safety hazard. They were ordered to tear it down. They didn't tear this down for approximately 2 years, by the way. Then the fire department shows up. Same fire department that you're hearing about that gave favors to Turkey through Eric Adams. That fire department went there, handed them 20 violations, said there's no fire suppression system, makes it a fire trap. Party goes on. We then have the health board. The health department shows up. They gave him an A rating despite the fact that they cited them multiple times. They said there were mice in the food. There's mice droppings. I mean, it's just disgusting what you're reading. Fruit flies. Yet the party goes on. And we see that we have fraternal organizations from the police department. We have Eric Adams. We have Carl Hasty, Letitia James, numerous state senate people, city councilman Ralph Salamanca. They're all there all the time having numerous fundraiser party, you name it. So then we go to January 6th. They have a party there that's sponsored by Internal Affairs, who ultimately should have been investigating the place for all these NYPD fraternal parties they had that should have never got approved, because just by what I'm telling you, knowing this history, they should never be in there. Oh, and by the way, the former owner that I mentioned, this Albanian guy, in early 2023, was actually picked up by the feds for human trafficking. He was trafficking people from Canada into America and was picked up, and he's on a 3-year probation, I think, right now. So there is something there to look at, the former owner. So then as this goes on, January 6th, they have this party, and the landlord had a court order against them because there was a violation of their lease. They're supposed to tear down the shed. They didn't. They waited 5 extra months. They owed $14,000 in back rent. They didn't pay a water bill. I mean, it was just a mess. They clearly just did whatever they felt like doing. They finally tear the shed down to have another party. This time it was in the parking lot. They violated the court order again. And there's the New York City Sheriff, Anthony Miranda, smiling with Jimmy Rodriguez drinking, while the police department's out front. And the allegations and rumors were that they were also drinking in uniform. It was one big party for them. They finally got a court order, a judge to shut them down. Okay. The judge put the order. That was it. Concert Frito finally closed. But during this whole time, you're now hearing about who? Eddie Caban's brothers running an extortion ring, his twin brother, James. James was seen there numerous times. Eddie, it was like he lived in the place, and Richie that owned the place. But the common trend here is the names that you're hearing over and over again were seen in this place. So as you know, and I was a cop, Roger and Troy, when you hear about crime families, they always have to have a hub. Where do they all locate? This seems to be the center of the epicenter of where they were hanging out all the time and the base of their operations. And then from there, the tree grows. It goes all over the place, and it becomes a big operation. And you're about to hear other people that are involved, Roger.
All right. So just to clarify things for our viewers, when he refers to Ed Caban was the New York City Police Commissioner.
Right.
His brother was running an extortion racket, essentially offering protection to nightclubs and restaurants against code enforcement and other problems. He has now been forced to step down. The most serious allegations revealed today in an indictment that was just released a few moments ago, so we haven't really had time to study it, but There's a lot of threads to this, but I think the most serious one is the allegation that Mayor Eric Adams was getting laundered campaign contributions from foreign sources, specifically Turkish forces, Turkish entities. And of course, the city of New York has a 10-to-1 matching formula. In other words, for every dollar you raise, the New York City taxpayers end up subsidizing you with an additional $10. And that's really the beginning. There are raids on a number of the mayor's associates who are involved in fundraising. The mayor himself is ambushed by the FBI, which actually takes his phones. What do we know about that, Sal, about that entire money laundering operation?
It seemed that he took about $10 million in donations, and he was doing lavish luxury suites, trips. And actually, Roger, that goes back to 2015. And I just want to state, because I see there's a lot of these so-called MAGA Republicans or MAGA politicians out there that are saying this is a political hit job. Let's be clear. What Eric Adams did and what he's being accused of is nothing short of what just happened to Bob Menendez and recently with Brooklyn Democrats. It's actually something that's common amongst local politicians. What Donald Trump, President Trump, was charged with, they used that statute from the 1800s, which is ridiculous, to charge him. That is a politically motivated, which they basically picked him out of a hat and said, we're going to use this to charge him. They are selectively enforcing that. They haven't done that since the 1800s. There's a difference between the two. So when we hear, Roger, Vicky Palladino, councilwoman, other people that are in New York City, Joe Borelli, then we're going to go even further. We'll have people like a Steve Bannon out there. Where were they when I was being persecuted? My father dies in front of me. I have internal affairs outside. I was treated like a criminal because what? I'm a Trump supporter. And I'm your friend, Roger. Where were the voices then? But now Eric Adams is a politically targeted person. What about Sal Greco? Where were the voices then? I don't really want to make it about myself, but I find it ridiculous. You can't even compare the two. What Eric Adams did is egregious. And guess what? It doesn't end with Eric Adams. It's going to be more people, Roger. You're going to hear about this. There's allegedly 300 more indictments coming with numerous people involved. And it's, you know, he's a highly conflicted individual who surrounds himself with corruptible people. We just saw his own new police commissioner, another corruptible guy, who was raided by the feds 1 week after he was named as a NYPD police commissioner. And Roger, you saw the document that I found that he wrote a letter of leniency to that treasonous FBI agent Charles McConigal, who was taking bribes from the Russians, and meanwhile he was part of Russian collusion. And if it's true what Tom Donilon did, where they were looking for documents, Roger, where we had that before, taking classified documents. I believe the only person that could even touch that would have been the president, which they try to bamboozle Donald Trump with. But guess what? If Tom Donilon's doing it, that's treasonous. And we already know he's good friends with a treasonous traitor of the country already. So what is Eric Adams doing but surrounding himself with corruptible people? It is no surprise to hear this. There's been rumors for years. And Roger, you go back to your days in New York City. Remember when he was in the state Senate with the race casino scandal? Mazerat, his buddy, got charged. Malcolm Smith got charged. But Eric Adams, who was guilty, they left off the hook. And I have his old testimony, and you could read it, and it's pretty damning. And the only good thing Andrew Cuomo did for the state of New York was in that deal, the profits from the casino, 70% go to the states. Probably the one good thing this guy actually did in his entire tenure. So Eric Adams' behavior has never been corrected. And now you're seeing everything come to light because he just continued on his path, Roger. It's really sad day for New York City, but really, if you really think about it, it's not unexpected.
Well, the defense that he's offering today, and it's important that many in MAGA world understand this. No, he was not targeted because he is a critic of the Biden migrant policies. First of all, he campaigned for mayor of New York City on a platform of making New York City a sanctuary city. Secondarily, he has purposely cited migrant shelters in middle-class Republican neighborhoods in Staten Island and Queens, and they have become magnets for crime. So this defense that, oh, he's just being targeted because he's a critic of the Biden administration migrant policies is 100% false. Sal, the one thing I have to urge you to do here is not everybody in our audience knows who all these characters are. So when you say Tom Donilon, you have to tell them who Tom Donilon is. When you say Ed Caban was the police commissioner. His brother was, as I say, shaking down establishments for protection. He was forced to resign. Now, this actually includes the school chancellor was forced to resign. His brother, another high-level aide to Mayor Adams, also forced to resign. It appears there may be as many as 300 indictments of the people in Eric Adams' circle. So when you see this defense today, that this is politically motivated, no, I think it's because the level of crime became so egregious, so obvious. It's not just Eric Adams, it is his entire internal circle. And just to be clear, Sal Greco was terminated by the NYPD because it is alleged that he violated a regulation of the department that said that he could not associate with an individual who in the past may have or in the future may be involved in criminal activity. Yet the police commissioner is consorting with Jimmy Rodriguez, a convicted felon. In fact, we know that when Eric Adams himself was a New York City police captain, he consorted with Reverend Al Sharpton, a convicted felon. The Reverend Louis Farrakhan, a convicted felon. Mike Tyson, a convicted felon. He was brought up on the same charges as Sal Greco in a departmental trial. But he didn't get his entire career destroyed. He wasn't terminated. He wasn't refused a letter of good conduct. He wasn't stripped of his pension. No, they docked his vacation time 5 days. And now compare that to the case of Salvatore Greco. Sal is suing in the federal courts. The city of New York has moved twice to dismiss that suit. The judge has denied that motion. Yet the city is dragging its feet when it comes to discovery. I'm sorry, but it is not believable that there were no communications between the police department and Mayor Eric Adams regarding this high-profile case. Sal Greco was terminated simply because he is a friend of mine. Yes, he was in Washington on January 5th and 6th, but he was not at the Capitol, and there is no evidence whatsoever that either he or I had advanced knowledge of, was involved in, or condoned any illegal activity on January 6th. That is a fantasy of the left, although they certainly investigated in violation in many cases of their own rules, and yet they found nothing. I say they, I refer to the city of New York. This is a shocking development. You can already see Adams trying to use a political defense. My sources tell me that he is arguing strenuously for a pardon on the part of outgoing President Joe Biden. But Biden is not particularly close to Eric Adams. Perhaps he thinks he can get a pardon from a President Kamala Harris, but I don't think there's going to be a President Kamala Harris. And he's looking at hard time here. The taking foreign campaign contributions and then submitting them for a city match is both a federal and a state crime and a serious felony. And that's just the tip of the iceberg here. You have so many levels of crime. It's really quite extraordinary. You're right. This is a crime family, and it all begins with an examination of that restaurant in the Bronx, Consafrito, which was essentially the headquarters for the Eric Adams crime family. Troy, a question for Sal Greco.
Absolutely, Sal. I want to ask you because I know it's been a long fight for you just since you were persecuted by, Eric Adams in the police department and these individuals that have been, taken over in New York City. And I just want to ask you, what kind of emotions ran through your mind when you saw the news that he had actually been indicted? Because I know you've predicted it on this show, you've predicted it on your Twitter feed for a long time now, and it just had to feel like justice. And secondly, how do you think this is going to end up? Do you think we'll actually see a day where Eric Adams is behind bars, or do you think he's going to pull some strings like Roger's kind of talking about here, and able to get out of this?
Well, the initial emotions were, yeah, it's almost a surreal moment. I'm thinking back of what actually happened to me. We had the problems, my father passing away. We had what happened to me personally being persecuted and everything that even Roger went through. I think of political persecution. I think of no one else short of Roger. I was there for Roger's trial. I went through everything with his family. It's like Roger is my family. And to try to compare this guy to that is laughable. It really is. When really Eric has criminal tendencies. And, I did predict it, but it's a somber day for New York City to have your mayor, as he's sitting right now, an indicted mayor. The first time ever. Not even Jimmy Walker got this treatment, or William O'Dwyer, who were both corrupt, but not as corrupt as Eric Adams, apparently. So it's a somber day. And you see everybody saying, well, Jumaane Williams he's going to be the mayor. He's a placeholder. He doesn't even have time to set up an administration because it'll be a special election. And there's no doubt that's going to happen, because whether Kathy Hochul removes him or this committee that they have, that the city charter has in his rule book, he's going to have to be removed. There are people flocking off the ship right now, Troy. You're going to have resignations. Who's going to even want to listen to this guy? He calls himself the mayor. I mean, we know what's going on here, and nobody wants to be a part of it. So it's a somber day for New York City, but for all those people that say Jumaane Williams, well, you guys in New York City elected him. Some of the New York City residents don't even go and vote. And when you look at the 8 million people in a city, how many of them really vote? And you look at those numbers and go, well, those are putrid numbers in the mayoral election. And that's part of the problem. You have to have a stake in the game to have a say. So if you're now worried about Jumaane Williams, well, you elected him as public advocate. You should have thought about that. What if scenarios? That's how people do that in a national level, or do they? See, elections have consequences, Troy, and New York City is learning the hard way that now, starting today, in the future, you really have to do research on your candidates that you're going to put in, you're looking to elect to office, because we can't do this identity politics. Oh, I'm the swagger man, all this garbage. Vote for me. We're the same skin color. We're the same gender. I'm the first of this or that. Because now look at the scenario you're stuck in. And now everyone's pointing fingers. Oh, we have Jumaane Williams. But you voted for Jumaane Williams. So now you have to eat what you sow. You have to eat your own crow. You should have voted. If you didn't vote, well, now you got to blame yourselves.
Let's address what happens going forward. I agree with Sal's analysis. The mayor may be vowing to stay on, but he won't be able to do so. The city now moves to a special election, which will be completely nonpartisan. So there'll be no primaries. Everybody will run in one election, and it will involve ranked choice voting, which is a system in which you vote for more than one candidate. I disagree with those who say that the public advocate, again, Sal, we have to tell people who these folks are. Public advocate Jumaane Williams is the front runner. I think this is going to be a huge race with multiple candidates. By the way, there is no runoff, so any candidate could win this with 20, 25, 23% of the votes, depending on how large the field gets. AOC yesterday afternoon called for Eric Adams, her fellow Democrat, to step down because she said the corruption rumors around his administration had got to be so great. So in other words, AOC was tipped off and she knew this was coming. The irony here, of course, is that within the milieu of New York Democrats, Eric Adams, who's an extreme liberal, is not progressive enough for people like AOC, despite the fact that he has located migrant shelters in stable, largely working class neighborhoods throughout the city of New York, causing a massive upsurge in crime. Let's go to that now. the mayor, the police chief, and the commissioner, and this guy Kaz Dodry, you can tell us who he is, they continued until recently to allege that crime in New York City is down. It looks to me like it's because they have manipulated, just like the FBI did, they've manipulated the statistics. Sal, tell us about that.
So it's a common practice here. So what goes on is it's called CompStat. They have a meeting at the end of each week. They all get together and they release these numbers. And the numbers are the 7 major felonies, misdemeanor crimes, violations, all the 7 majors, which is murder, rape, robbery, assault, grand larceny, auto, and also I think regular larceny. So here's the thing with that though. When you release the 7 majors, these are manipulated, and I could tell you how this works. So, Roger, let's say you're walking down the street, you have your let's say your laptop in your hand. Somebody walks over in New York City, punches you in the face, rips the laptop away, and they're gone. Technically, Roger, that is a robbery. But what they'll do is they could downgrade this crime and say, well, it's actually not a robbery. We could say it's a petty larceny or a larceny, and then make it a assault, or vice versa. And you stay away from the felony. Meanwhile, when they report this to the FBI, they're going to say it's assault 3, which is a misdemeanor, or even a petty larceny, saying that the laptop's not worth over $1,000. And meanwhile, when the FBI then reports it, because they have to announce their official report, I believe in February or March of each year, then the NYPD goes back and manipulates that and goes, oh, we're going to change that back to what it is, a felony. So you actually saw this year. So they inflate numbers and then deflate them at the same time. Whatever it takes to manipulate the whole crime is down, jobs are up, the city's not surviving, it's thriving, Eric Adams lingo. So that's what's going on. And then we also have the FBI was underreporting crimes and overreporting crimes, and sometimes not even reporting crimes. So you have a little bit of between the police department and the FBI, the right hand's not telling the left hand what to do. So they're manipulating the crime stats every week. A good friend of mine, Sam Antar, he puts this out on his X feed. He's always reviewing the numbers, and he finds all the misdeeds. Under Eric Adams, Roger, violent crime is up 30% in his tenure. 30%. He's telling you crime is down. How is that possible? Violent crimes are up 30%. And the misdemeanor crimes, Roger, those are the assault 3s and the petty larcenies I'm talking about. Those are through the roof. That tells you people what they're telling you, they don't feel safe. And he says it's a perception and not a reality. The perception is the reality. They are seeing it. They don't feel safe. They see it in the street. And Eric is going to tell you the opposite because he's doing whatever it takes to politically survive at this point, Roger.
There's another going on here, just yet another of this sequence of crimes. I'm looking at the clips here, which are really overwhelming. Frank Carone, a key advisor to Eric Adams, recently subpoenaed by an investigation regarding his dealings with a Brooklyn church. Yet another tentacle of this same web of corruption. Tell us about that, Sal.
So Frank Carone, who is up to his eyeballs with Eric Adams and a lot of his dealings. In fact, last night, you did see him leaving Gracie Mansion and he had his shirt unbuttoned. And I said, oh, I guess they were patting him down for the wire because there's all sorts of rumors with him. And I could tell you through the grapevine, through a back channel, what I heard, and it's just a rumor, but I'll put it out there that I heard that he's selling his house because his indictment is imminent. They've been looking into him for quite a while. These trips, you heard about the foreign trips. Remember, Frank Carone went to Azerbaijan. I think that's one of the countries, or Uzbekistan, and he was meeting with these foreign nationals. And remember, he was the chief of staff to Eric Adams. He's also a very big frequenter of Zero Bond. They were throwing fundraisers over there. There's all kinds of questions. Now you have the church, so the Monsignor's involved, and he's another guy who's a shady guy in the background. Frank Carone, he's a well-known lobbyist in the city. Everybody knows what you're dealing with him. This comes as no surprise because, once again, here's another corruptible individual that Eric Adams surrounds himself with. So this is no surprise. And like I said, I would expect, from what I understand and what I believe, he will be joining Eric Adams in a future indictment.
Okay, we're going to take a quick commercial break here. And then when we come back, we have a bit more with Sal Greco. And then Troy Smith and I are going to get into some of the politics of the day.
This is Roger Stone. Remember when AT&T's cell phone outage left millions, including me, stranded without a means to communicate with loved ones, business associates, or even for emergency services? You see, cellular networks are particularly vulnerable, big targets for hackers and terrorists, as well as vulnerable to hurricanes and other natural disasters. So if your cell phone goes down, how will you communicate? That's why I got the Iridium 9555 satellite phone and service. I'm using the proprietary Iridium satellite service. Cell networks only cover about 7% of the Earth, while the Iridium system covers 100% of the Earth. You can call or text from any place you can see the sky. These are trusted by U.S. military and government officials everywhere. All calls are encrypted, safe and secure. No eavesdropping, no hacking. It's the reason the U.S. military uses Iridium phones, and the U.S. Senate uses satellite phones for their secure phone calls. You too can ensure your privacy by using our Iridium proprietary satellite network. Just go to sat123.com/Roger. No tracking and no one can listen to your calls. No one will ever read your text but the person you're sending them to. And more importantly, big tech cannot steal and then sell your data. You can get the Iridium 9555 phone at no cost if you sign up for a plan with a 24-month agreement. A monthly plan is only $95.95, and you get the phone for free. You can get a plan with us for as little as $85.95. And then there are discounted free phones. Those are also available. The Iridium 9555 satellite phone will work from anywhere on Earth with no exceptions. Oh, and how do you keep your satellite phone charged in the event of an electrical grid shutdown? You're going to want our solar-powered satellite phone recharger. You can get it all by going to sat123.com/Roger. You need to have secure communications. Get your Iridium 9555 phone now.
Okay, folks, that is sat123.com/Roger. Check out the Iridium 955 phone, but just as importantly, and more importantly, actually, the proprietary Iridium satellite phone system. That way, in the event of an entire electrical power grid shutdown, as Kash Patel spoke about on this show only about a week ago, you'll always have communications capability because you won't be relying on cell phone towers or the cell phone system, which is particularly vulnerable to terrorists, hackers, or maybe just inclement weather like the hurricane that we're having in Florida, even as we speak. Folks, I hope you will check it out. Now, Sal, as you know, in order for a woman named E. Jean Carroll to file a civil case against Donald Trump, claiming that many years ago Trump sexually assaulted her, a trial in which he was held liable for that sexual assault. No, he was not convicted of rape, despite the fact that many of the elements of E. Jean Carroll's story seem highly questionable. They had to actually change the New York State law to open a window to essentially suspend the statute of limitations so that they could indict Trump. This was the brainchild of George Conway, the former husband of Kellyanne Conway, and one of the principals in the Lincoln Project, a Trump hater. To their surprise, when they used their contacts in the Democrat-controlled legislature and with the signature by the Democrat governor in this setup to try to charge Donald Trump, well, two other individuals got charged. A woman came forward to accuse Eric Adams of sexual assault, and a woman came forward to charge Andrew Cuomo with sexual assault. We'll put the Cuomo issue aside for another day, but today you have learned, Sal, that the taxpayers of New York are paying for Eric Adams' legal defense in this sexual assault matter. Is that legal?
Actually, Roger, that is official misconduct. And I'll tell you why. In New York City, there's a law. It's under General Municipal Law 50K2. Under this law, what happens is corporation counsel, who any employee in New York City, especially in the police department, which is where Eric Adams used to be employed, which is when this supposedly allegedly happened, would have to determine what happened and give a letter to the public. It's public, this letter, because the public would be paying for your defense. And just not giving your legal defense away, but explain why they're defending you. Now, remember, they must defend an action that you took while doing your duties, meaning it's got to fall in the scope of your duties or it had something to do in your job. And Roger, sexual misconduct, especially assault or rape, does not fall under the scope of anyone's duties in New York City, let alone the New York City Police Department. So they're representing him illegally. We don't understand why. There was no reason given. We, as the taxpayers, have the right to see the letter. They gave me a letter that said there was no letter. That was my FOIL request. There's nothing. So what happened is the head of the corporation counsel, Sylvia Hinz-Radix, she ended up stepping down because Eric had a hissy fit behind the scenes when she said, we can't represent you, Eric. And then six city lawyers are on this case, plus another lawyer named Alex Spiro. Remember him? He's a big shot attorney. He's on this case, and he's also representing Eric in a criminal case. But the taxpayers are on the hook for this particular case, which is a sexual assault that took place over 30 years ago when Eric Adams was a sergeant in the Transit Guardians fraternity, which she was a part of, in the transit division of the time New York City Transit Police, which then merged in the NYPD. But the problem here is it's official misconduct by whoever decided to represent Eric because it is illegal. It does not fall under the scope of the duties. And Roger, we see this with numerous people in his administration, actually. We've seen this with Ed Caban, this civilian named Brian Adams, who's in the police department, the chief of department of the NYPD, Jeffrey Madry, the chief of patrol, John Schell, in the NYPD, also the deputy commissioner of operations, Kaz Dawdry. They're all named in a lawsuit with a woman named Damon Ratchlin, who just so happened to now end up in front of my judge in Brooklyn last week in a case of another sexual harassment case, which includes Eric Adams yet again. So the city is illegally representing these people. They are fleecing the taxpayers. They're running up the tab. And when is anyone going to step in with that? Is there going to be a hearing on city council? Does it take, I don't know, maybe Letitia James could wake up and actually realize she's a state attorney general again? Someone needs to step in with that because, Roger, they are fleecing the taxpayers. This man is highly corrupt.
Troy, you have another question for Sal Greco.
Absolutely, Roger. As we're getting to the end of this segment here, we have a video that I wanted to play and ask Sal about directly, and that it relates to the relationship between now indicted rapper P. Diddy and Eric Adams, and ask him if he has anything to do. You know, the P. Diddy indictment comes just a week or two before this Eric Adams indictment, which I find very interesting. We've actually pulled a video of Eric Adams giving the key to the city to P. Diddy, and if you watch the StoneZONE, you would have seen this already, and him celebrating him, and now knowing what we know, pretty troubling stuff. So let's roll that and then get Sal's opinion on if this P. Diddy indictment had anything to do with the unraveling of Eric Adams. Let's roll that.
On Diddy Combs can add New York City to that list. It's Diddy Day in the city. Videos have been playing on the Jumbotron for TSX Broadway, and the crowd waited. Then around 11:30, the doors opened for the mayor and the artist.
The bad boy of entertainment is getting the key to the city from the bad boy of politics.
I want to thank y'all for this honor and just recognizing me being from New York, giving me the key to the city. Diddy finally has the key to the city.
Today's event coincides with the release of his new album, The Love Album, Off the Grid.
Quite incredible. A lot of speculation today that Eric Adams is now a man in tough shape, because you see, normally the underlings roll on the big fish. Right now, who knows? The Caban brothers, Carone, uh, all of these other city officials seeking to make a deal for themselves, they're probably rolling on Eric. But Eric doesn't have anybody to roll on because he is, as we Italians say, the head of the snake. The only thing here that occurs to me is there's two people he may have information on that would be problematic. One of them potentially is P. Diddy. The other one is Attorney General Letitia James. Now, we know that she was among those who frequented Casa Frito. And we also know by analyzing the funding of her campaign that she's among those who took thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars in repeat small contributions from donors who either don't really exist or when they're contacted say they have no memory or record of having given any money to Letitia James. Letitia James has a lot of power as New York Attorney General, but she's someone that Eric Adams could try to feed to federal prosecutors to get them to go easier on him. Thoughts on this, Sal?
She is the true, I would believe, the true head of this entire operation. Just by when you look at it from the outside in, she's the head law enforcement agent in the entire state, and she was associating with criminals. And meanwhile, Roger, she has the power to make you a convicted criminal. That is completely a contradiction, and she should be called in and sanctioned for this. And, you know, I saw the video there, and I want to make one point there was P. Diddy. Standing to Eric's left and to the right of the screen was Ingrid Lewis Martin. She's his chief advisor. She's been absent for over 10 days now. She was not at 2 consecutive press conferences. They say she's on vacation. I think she's in a witness protection program because she knows where all Eric Adams' bones are buried. She was with him all the way back from 2015. She also frequented Casa Frito, and she looked to be all happy when she saw P. Diddy. And I'll tell you what, these freak-off parties where you have a lot of celebrities now scrubbing the internet, you're hearing the rumors of the cops involved. You're hearing rumors of the hip-hop police, which was a squad in the NYPD back in the day. And I like to also reiterate, P. Diddy was given the key to the city, and then very recently, who else? Fat Joe. Fat Joe, very, very he must have lived at a Casa Frito. He was there so much. And he also is very close friends with P. Diddy. So this is an intricate web. The more you dig, it's going down a rabbit hole. You have all these different associations, and we're going to wait and see here, Roger, because right now this is the indictment you're reading, but with 300 people on deck, who knows if there are any superseding indictments coming, and is P. Diddy talking from jail? That is yet to be determined.
Final point here. This is one you will certainly remember. Again, this is about a double standard. So again, they terminated Sal Greco as a New York City police officer. They destroyed his life, but they don't hold themselves to the same standards. Cardi B, a rapper with a criminal record, was actually invited to speak at the New York City Police Academy. And therefore, she came into contact with all of the top brass of the New York City Police Department. Why weren't they terminated for their association with her? It violates the same regulation that they say you violated, the regulation that Eric Adams violated when he was a police captain, for which he got a slap on the wrist. Just another egregious example of the two-tiered justice system. No place more prevalent than in New York City. All right, we're going to have to move on. I want to thank our guest, Sal Greco. Sal, you have a new show, the Sal Greco Show. Tell us where folks can see that.
Sure, Roger. Thanks. So you can watch my show on Rumble. It's at the Sal Greco Show. You can give it a follow in a Rumble, please, and check it out there. Or on YouTube, the Sal Greco Show. Same thing. You could click the like button and subscribe, hit the notification button. Also, I'm on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, all the major podcasts that are streaming on the net. And give it a like and a rating and check it out because I discuss this in more depth. And I also show people there's articles that are written that normal people don't know about because they're like subscriber based, but I show the articles and read, and there's a lot of good information there from these journalists, these beat writers in New York City who are, up and coming. And check out the show. I discuss sports, politics, NYPD, and many other things. So the Sal Greco Show, and of course on Twitter or X at the Sal Greco.
All right. Many thanks to our friend Sal Greco. Sal, I know you're going to be very, very busy today. You've got a lot of requests for shows. This is a day of vindication for you. You said for over 3 years that this day would come. In the beginning, people didn't believe you, but well, a lot of people believe you today. You're a hero for bringing the truth forward. And I really hope that the city will settle your lawsuit because you did nothing wrong. And I have a Sal Greco did nothing wrong t-shirt. I might wear it this weekend. All right, Sal, thanks for joining us here in the Stone Zone.
Thank you, Roger. God bless. God bless, Troy.
All right, Troy, we got a few minutes left here for politics. So why don't you lead the way?
Well, Roger, we got a lot of stuff to get to, but a little time to do it. So we're going to have to just pick the best of it here. And I think a good place to start would probably be Kamala Harris, an interview she recently did, just a couple of clips, just amazing stuff. Because as we kind of see Kamala Harris go out into the media more, she's having, being forced really to do more interviews because she's done so few of them that she's actually falling out of favor with the media. And though they are they're still very sycophantic. They really are mad, I think, angry at the fact that she has done so few interviews. So here's a clip from an interview that she did just yesterday with MSNBC, probably the most favorable ground she could have possibly done the interview on, MSNBC. And they asked her pretty directly about the tariffs and tariffs that Trump put on. People at home understand this, were left on by the Biden administration. So while they criticized Trump for his foreign policy, the things that he left in place, they actually kept in place. And Kamala Harris is asked directly about this. And when she gives her answer, you kind of hear the fact that she doesn't know what a tariff is. She doesn't have any idea what it is. And she's really just, like you said yesterday, Roger, giving a canned response. So let's roll this clip of Kamala Harris struggling to figure out what a tariff is. And they get Roger's reactions to the unraveling of Kamala Harris, the more media she actually does.
Tariffs aren't unique to President Trump. President Biden has tariffs in place. He's actually looking to potentially implement more. Where do you come out on? Is there a good tariff, a bad tariff?
Well, part of it is you don't just throw around the idea of just tariffs across the board, and that's part of the problem with Donald Trump. Frankly, and I say this in all sincerity, he's just not very serious about how he thinks about some of these issues. And one must be serious and have a plan.
Does she know what a tariff is? I actually think that the reason she's beginning, in most of the polling that I'm studying, to lose ground is people are beginning to focus on the fact that she cannot answer a simple question, that she seems to go to this default position of something she memorized for the ABC ambush debate. Or she takes what was and has historically been her position and pretends that that was never her position. So now, for example, she says if she's elected, she's going to hire hundreds of new border patrol agents. She's going to seal the border, as if she wasn't responsible for the border over the last 3+ years. It was very interesting. Joe Biden, in a speech that I saw yesterday, really ties her very tightly to his administration, making it clear that everything we did, she was in on it, folks. She was right there. She was in on it. I think watching that performance on The View that we had yesterday, Joe Biden is very angry. When he has lucid moments, and I think he has some, he's very angry. They forced him out. You heard him say yesterday, I didn't think my poll numbers were so bad. My polls numbers showed that I was in range. He actually said I was running about as strong, well, he said, as she is. So I think that Joe Biden is subtly undermining her at every turn. When he put on the Trump hat, when he posed with a whole bunch of kids wearing Trump t-shirts, no, that's not because he's around the bend. He knows exactly what he's doing. They forced him out against his will, I still believe that they may yet try to force him out before the end of his term, only because that would elevate her to the historic position of being our first woman president. I don't rule that out happening at all. The way the 25th Amendment, which I think they've already employed, that's how I believe they ultimately got him to drop out of the race. First, they orchestrated the very, very early pre-convention CNN debate. We've never had a presidential debate before the conventions have actually legally selected their candidates. That's never happened. So you got to wonder why Biden was so hot to do a pre-convention debate. I think because he was being set up for failure, and CNN was uncharacteristically fair in their conduct of that debate. That's because they were setting Joe Biden up. So I think they've already employed the 25th Amendment. Now, the way that works is a majority of the cabinet and the vice president can remove the president under the 25th Amendment to the U.S. Constitution. However, the president can appeal that decision to both houses of Congress. And if both houses of Congress sustain the president, he would remain in office. That's why Barack Obama, lining up Chuck Schumer and Nancy Pelosi, who I think still controls the House, and Hakeem Jeffries, who is nominally the Democrat minority leader, was crucial to cutting off any chance Joe Biden had of surviving. When Donald Trump said in the debate, Joe Biden hates her, pointing at Kamala Harris, you notice that Kamala Harris never refuted that. That's because they're worried about what Joe might say tomorrow. All right, we got a few more minutes here. Troy, what else do we have in our political lineup?
Well, Roger, the Democrats are launching an all-out frontal assault here before the election, and the centerpiece of this seems to be abortion rights, and the main piece of their abortion rights attack on Donald Trump is attributing the Project 2025 agenda, which he has repeatedly stated he has nothing to do with, and saying that that is his. We pulled some screenshots this morning from Agenda 47. Now, this is President Trump's agenda off his website. You're going to see them on the screen now. Now, these are 20 points that are posted on the Trump-Vance website. This is not Project 2025, but this is Trump's agenda. This is Agenda 47. It's things like seal the border, end inflation, make America dominant in energy. This is his platform. Notice how it doesn't include a national abortion ban. That's because President Trump doesn't support a national abortion ban. He never has. Yet those in the Democrat Party want to put that on him and say, yes, you do want that. We have a clip yesterday from a committee meeting, a hearing by the steering committee. And I want you to look at this, Roger, because this was an hour and a half of the Democrats saying Trump's 2025 agenda is going to destroy the country. Now, remember this. Project 2025 has nothing to do with Trump. He's denounced it several times. He said he has nothing to do with it. He said he has no intention of following it. Not only that, but he's published his own platform. Yet these people freaked out for an hour and a half yesterday, claiming that his agenda that he has nothing to do with, is going to destroy the country. Let's roll a clip of that and get Roger's thoughts on this Project 2025 hysteria from the Democrats.
Buried in Project 2025 is a not-so-secret plan to eliminate overtime pay. It's a generous gift to corporations and an insult to the American worker. Many working families, especially in my state of Michigan, but in many others across the heartland of America and the rest of the country, rely on overtime to make ends meet and to save for their future. In fact, we know that many workers take on jobs specifically because employers offer overtime. But under Trump's Project 2025, employers could force workers to work more than 40 hours a week without paying them time and a half. In other words, you work harder and you earn less. Workers deserve better.
I said this before, I'll say it again. If it's fair for the Democrats to say that Project 2025 is Trump's agenda because some people who support Trump worked on it, well, then it's fair to say that the U.S. Communist Party platform is the platform of Kamala Harris because a number of people who support Kamala Harris worked on compiling that. Now, she would deny that that is her agenda, but then Trump has denied that correctly that Project 2025 is his platform. His platform is very clear. It doesn't include a federal abortion ban. It doesn't include this idea that he's going to put a new 20% tax on every American. They're talking about his proposal to reduce federal taxes and replace that revenue with stronger tariffs. It doesn't include ending IVF, another one of the biggest smears, this idea that he would outlaw fertility drugs or that he would take away women's contraceptives. They continue to run on what is solely a campaign of lies, a massive campaign of lies. All right, I think we have to wrap it up there. I want to thank my co-host, Troy Smith, for joining us today in the Stone Zone. I also want to thank our guest, Sal Greco, New York City police officer, to help us understand the shocking news out of New York, which was the indictment of Democrat Mayor Eric Adams in 40 days before an election. Really quite extraordinary. Folks, if you would, go buy the Rumble app in your phone and please download it to your phone, and then be sure to follow our show here, rumble.com/RogerStone, and set your notification. That way you'll never miss the show. So again, you can see us every day at 4 o'clock Central, 5 o'clock Eastern at worldviewtube.com. But if you miss the show there, well, you can see it in the evening at 8 p.m. Eastern on Rumble. Until tomorrow, God bless you and Godspeed.
A man who's gone through hell, but he's kept going, and he's smart and he's strong, and people love him. Not everybody, but people love him and respect him. Roger Stone. Where's Roger Stone?